In 1867, Russia sold Alaska to the United States for $7.2 million, less than 2 cents per acre. Why would Russia part with such a vast territory for such a low price? The answer lies in financial woes, political pressures, and a miscalculation. The Crimean War had drained the Tsar's treasury, leaving Russia on the brink of financial ruin. Maintaining control of far-flung Alaska was becoming increasingly difficult. The Tsar faced a dilemma: invest more in an unprofitable territory or cut their losses. Alaska held a certain mystique with its towering mountains, pristine glaciers, and abundant wildlife. However, the fur trade, once the primary source of income, had fallen into decline. Overhunting had depleted sea otters and fur seals, the lifeblood of the Alaskan economy. The sale of Alaska was a calculated risk taken during economic and geopolitical uncertainty. It reflected the harsh realities of maintaining a global empire with financial constraints. The decision to sell was driven by pragmatism and a sense of desperation. Little did the Tsar know he was making one of the most momentous territorial sales in history. The allure of Alaska was fading, and the economic viability came into serious question. The sale was a gamble, reflecting shifting global power dynamics. The mid-1800s were turbulent times for Russia. The Crimean War had drained the imperial coffers, leaving the Tsar with a mountain of debt. Alaska, thousands of miles away, seemed like an extravagance the Tsar could no longer afford. The costs of maintaining a presence in the remote territory were substantial. Supplies had to be shipped across the globe, a logistical nightmare. Defending Alaska from potential adversaries, particularly Great Britain, was costly. The Tsar faced a stark choice: continue to pour resources into Alaska, or invest in more pressing domestic needs. The allure of Alaska was fading fast in the face of harsh economic realities. The decision to sell reflected a broader shift in Russian foreign policy towards consolidation. For over a century, the fur trade had been the lifeblood of the Russian presence in Alaska. However, by the mid-19th century, the once lucrative fur trade was in steep decline. Overhunting had taken a heavy toll on animal populations. Sea otters and fur seals became increasingly scarce. The decline in fur-bearing animals directly impacted the profitability of Russian America. The Russian government was hesitant to invest in alternative economic activities in Alaska. The decline of the fur trade made Alaska a less attractive investment. The rising popularity of silk and other fabrics reduced the demand for fur. The decline of this vital industry dealt a severe blow to the economic viability of Russian America. Beyond financial woes, another factor weighed heavily on the Tsar's decision to sell Alaska: British expansionism. Russia viewed Britain, its geopolitical rival, with suspicion. The Crimean War had intensified these anxieties. The British posed a significant threat to Russian interests in North America. The discovery of gold in British Columbia heightened tensions with Russia. Selling Alaska to the United States, a rising power, seemed like a shrewd strategic move. It would provide Russia with much-needed cash and create a buffer zone between British North America and Russia's Pacific territories. The sale was a calculated geopolitical maneuver to counter British influence. The negotiations for the sale of Alaska were shrouded in secrecy. The Russian minister to the United States, Edward de Stockel, approached Secretary of State William Seward in March 1867 with a proposition. Seward, a staunch expansionist, jumped at the opportunity. On March 30, 1867, the Treaty of Cession was signed, transferring ownership of Alaska for $7.2 million. Many Americans ridiculed the purchase, mocking Alaska as Seward's Folly and Seward's icebox. Alaska was a distant and mysterious land, shrouded in myth and misconception. The purchase seemed like an unnecessary extravagance to many. However, Seward recognized Alaska's strategic importance and potential for future growth. He envisioned a time when Alaska would become an integral part of the United States. Time would prove Seward right, but in 1867, the Alaska purchase was widely seen as a folly. The critics who had scoffed at Seward's folly were in for a rude awakening. Just a few decades after the purchase, Alaska proved its worth. In 1880, gold was discovered near Juneau, sparking a gold rush. Prospectors flocked to the territory, and Alaska was firmly on the map. The discovery of gold was just the beginning. In the early 20th century, vast deposits of copper, oil, and natural gas were found. These discoveries fueled economic development and transformed Alaska into a strategically important territory. During World War II, Alaska's strategic significance became clear. The Aleutian Islands became a battleground between the United States and Japan. Today, Alaska is a vital part of the United States, rich in natural resources and strategically important. In the decades following the Alaska sale, a question lingered. Did Russia come to regret its decision? Some historians argue that Russia made a pragmatic decision to sell a distant and unprofitable territory. Selling to the United States served Russia's interests by limiting British expansionism. Others maintain that the sale was a colossal blunder, driven by a lack of information. They point to the vast natural resources discovered in Alaska as evidence of Russia's miscalculation. Whether Russia regrets the sale is speculative, but it stands as a reminder of the shifting tides of history. It serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of short-term thinking and the enduring legacy of decisions made in uncertainty.